There's a very specific kind of moment that happens to a lot of guys at some point in their life. You see a girl, and instantly something in your brain just goes, yeah, that's my type. Not just attractive, okay? Like you see attractive people all the time. This is different. Something about her just clicks in your head immediately. The way she looks, the way she carries herself, the way she talks to people around her. Like you notice the little things. Maybe she laughs in a certain way. Maybe she's quieter than everyone else. Maybe she's not trying to get attention like everyone else in the room. She just seems comfortable being herself. And when that happens, something weird starts happening inside of your brain. Instead of just walking over and talking to her like a normal human being, your mind starts negotiating with itself. You start thinking things like, maybe now isn't the right moment. Oh, she's busy talking to that other guy. Maybe I'll just talk to her later. Oh, maybe she's just not even interested. And, every single one of those thoughts sounds reasonable in the moment. They feel logical. Most importantly, they feel safe. But what they're actually doing is buying time for your fear to grow. I know this feeling really well because I literally went through it yesterday. I was visiting my friend who had just moved into a new apartment in downtown Chicago. He had just gotten the place, and a bunch of us came down to check it out, hang out, and obviously go out to the bars that same day. It ended up being one of those groups where half the people they were friends and people I already knew, and the other half were people that I had never met before. Friends of friends, girlfriends of friends, people just kind of orbiting the same social circle, if you will. Earlier in the day, everyone was hanging around the apartment. People were introducing themselves, grabbing drinks, doing that normal thing where everyone's slowly figuring out who everyone is. And at some point during all of that, I met this girl named Angelica. But when I say I met, I mean briefly. Like we probably said hello, exchanged a couple sentences. I saw her probably like a year ago, but it was very brief. It wasn't anything to form any kind of connection. It was more so just like a quick introduction that you have with a lot of people in group settings. But then fast forward to yesterday, we're all going out to the bars. We hung out at the apartment, didn't talk to her, then we went out to the bars. Downtown Chicago on a Saturday, it's pretty lively. So, we were just kind of bar hopping. And at first, I honestly wasn't thinking about Angelica at all. We had barely talked earlier, like I mentioned, so in my head, she was just like another person in the group. But at some point during the night, I noticed her again. And like this time, I actually noticed her. My friend briefly mentioned that like she was single, but the first thought that crossed my mind when I did notice her on my own was basically like, damn, she's really my type. Obviously, she was really cute. That part is obvious. But that wasn't even the thing that stood out the most. It was just the way that she carried herself. She wasn't loud. She wasn't trying to dominate the room. She wasn't bouncing around trying to talk to everyone. She seemed calm, a little reserved, just kind of existing comfortably in the environment without needing attention. And to me, that was like really hot. For whatever reason, that kind of energy just always stands out to me more than someone trying to be the center of the universe, which a lot of the other girls were. But later into the day, my friend, he came up to me. This was at the bar, and he casually said something like, Angelica's single, right? And immediately I knew what he was doing. Like literally first sentence, I knew what my bro was doing. He was trying to set me up. He's already tried in the past, but this time he's like really trying to set me up. And the second he said that, something shifted in my brain. Like before that moment, Angelica was just another person in the group, but now my brain started paying attention in a completely different way. Now I'm noticing where she is in the room. Now I'm noticing like who she's talking to, who are her friends, and I'm thinking about whether I should go talk to her. And the obvious thing to do would have been simple, like, hey, just walk over there and start a conversation, right? We were literally in the same group, so it would have been easy. It's not like you're walking up to a stranger. It wouldn't have been weird at all. But for some reason, the second your brain frames the situation like that, suddenly the pressure appears. Now it feels like the conversation actually matters. Now it feels like you have to say the right thing. And now it feels like the moment has stakes. And the funny part is that the pressure didn't even come from her. She wasn't acting intimidating. She wasn't acting unapproachable. Although maybe a little bit. Maybe she was a little too reserved. But basically, most if not all of the pressure existed entirely in my own head. Meanwhile, something kind of ironic happened. I ended up talking to her friend, not Angelica, but her like really close good friend. And the conversation was ridiculously easy. I mean, we were talking shop, we were chatting it up. It felt like I've known this person forever. We were joking about random things, talking about the city, having a completely normal conversation, no pressure, no overthinking, just two people talking. It was actually funny because her friend was asking me about my type in woman, and I didn't find this girl attractive one bit, but it was just so easy talking to her. But halfway through that conversation, I had this realization that like it's not that it made me laugh; it just made me think like, why is this so easy? Like, why can I talk to her friend like it's the most natural thing in the world? But walking over to Angelica feels like some kind of huge moment. And the answer was painfully obvious. Not in the moment, but the next day, which is today, nothing was on the line. I wasn't trying to impress her friend. I wasn't worried about whether she thought I was interesting. Like, I was just being myself. I was just being myself, which is exactly how you're supposed to talk to anyone. But attraction does something strange to your brain. It makes you treat a normal conversation like it's some kind of high stakes performance. So throughout the night, I kept telling myself the same thing. All right, I'll go talk to her in a minute. Then a minute passed, then 10 minutes, then 20 minutes. And the longer you wait, the harder it becomes to do the thing that you should have done immediately. Because now your brain starts building the momentum up. What should I say? Should I mention we met earlier? Should I make a joke? Should I wait until she's not talking to someone? And like every one of those thoughts feels logical, but what you're actually doing is building a wall between yourself and the action. Eventually I did talk to Angelica, but here's the part that stuck with me afterward. By the time that I finally had walked over and started talking to her, we were talking about one of her trips to Japan. The night was basically winding down. People were getting tired. Some people were already talking about heading home. And you could feel the energy of the night slowly fading. We talked very briefly. And honestly, it was actually really easy, which almost made it worse. You guys, you have no idea. This made it so much worse because it confirmed something I already suspected. There was never anything to be afraid of in the first place. The hardest part of that entire situation wasn't even the conversation. The hardest part was the hours I spent thinking about the conversation. Later that night, when we go back to my friend's apartment, I kept thinking about the whole thing. Not like in a dramatic way, just that quiet reflection where your brain replays moments and you start asking yourself questions. Why did I wait so long? Why did I spend all that time overthinking something that turned out to be like so completely normal? And that's when I realized something. That the worst part about a situation like this isn't even like the rejection. Rejection actually ends the story. It's quick, It gives your brain closure. It's fine. Like we're scared of rejection, but it's actually it's quick and it gives you closure. It's fine. Hesitation is what leaves the story unfinished. And when a story's unfinished, your brain keeps trying to imagine how it might have gone. See, that's the difference between not making a move and just flat out getting rejected. Like, you start thinking like, what if I talked to her earlier? What if we actually had a real conversation earlier in the day? What if we had way more common than I realized? And like your imagination is like filling in the missing pieces. And I don't know if you guys can relate to this. I feel like there's got to be at least one person on planet Earth who's gone through something similar. And imagination is terrible at giving closure. So yeah, Angelica, if by some random chance you ever see this video, the story might sound pretty familiar. Maybe this, hopefully, I don't know if hopefully, but if this pops up on your YouTube algorithm, we're cooked. But honestly, if I ever run into you again, I already know exactly what I'd say. It wouldn't be like some rehearsed line, not in like a weird attempt to sound smooth or anything. I would just be really honest. Now just reflecting live, I would say something like, hey, I wanted to, like if I ever see you again. Hey, I wanted to say something kind of funny. The last time we were all out in Chicago, I actually wanted to talk to you earlier in the night, but for some reason I had a hard time building up the courage. And when we did finally talk, it was really easy. So if I seemed a little awkward or didn't go up to you, that's probably why. And then she's probably going to look at me, give me funny faces, be like, what the fuck? But, that's all I would say now thinking about it. Because, sometimes honesty removes the pressure that created the awkwardness in the first place. At least that's how I'm explaining it to myself. But the bigger lesson here isn't really about one person. This kind of hesitation just shows up everywhere in life, where you see an opportunity, you see something interesting, you see something you want to try, and your brain immediately starts generating reasons to wait. But most of the time, the hardest part is just the first 30 seconds. And like we all know that, but like in the moment your brain just like turns off and you don't know that, you know? The moment that's like the moment where you decide whether you're going to move or not. Because once you move, everything usually becomes normal again. And even if the moment ends up being awkward, at least the story actually happened. Because the only thing worse than an awkward moment is wondering forever how that moment might have gone. So that's just my reflection after yesterday. I felt very compelled to make this video because it might be relatable to a lot of you guys. I don't know what we're gonna even name this video right now. I'm recording and yapping. So hopefully you guys enjoyed this like raw footage. Of what's happened in my real life, but I might title it something like The Girl I Was Scared to Talk to, or something like that, and maybe you guys have a story like this as well that you want to share. If not, I totally respect it being private, but you know, I want to be open with my community, and I want them to learn from my failures. That is the biggest thing on this channel, is that I am making the mistakes and I'm teaching you guys along the way. Because I've had some people come up to me and say, they're like, hey, you're so knowledgeable on a lot of things. And my answer to that is I just make more mistakes than everybody else, you know? Like I learn from my own failures. But I don't want you guys to experience it for the first time because believe me, it sucks. But it does shape you, it makes you a better person. And, you know, if I could help even one person with this video for the takeaway to be like, hey, just go do it, go talk to that girl. I'm gonna call it a success. You know, I don't really care how many views the video gets or anything like that. I just want to keep it authentic and honest. But yeah, that's all I got, you guys. Subscribe and like if you enjoyed the video, and we'll catch you here on the next one.